Yeah, and it's, I think also as an outsider, not a believer, to see just like the, uh, I'm trying to think of the proper analogy, but like, just to see people not truly living it and stumbling, but not just stumbling on accident, but stumbling purposely, it's very counterproductive for what they're trying to convey to others. And so, yeah, I mean, I had a lot of those problems even growing up as a believer.
Yeah, was and is even now. I get very frustrated with folks who go through those type of exercises. Well, we gotta have a law that joins that makes people stop doing what they're doing or and all that stuff. And so in general, well, I think we can certainly say there are certain laws that must be on the books. Thou shalt not murder and stuff like that. In general, most of these things just don't. They just don't. Legislating alcohol consumption just doesn't go very far.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't. You're cleaning the outside of the cup, but you're not cleaning the inside of the cup. To borrow an analogy, I came at Christianity, and it was a fairly as being fairly skeptical, you might say. So then I guess I ended up moving back to the Bay Area, and I was living with some folks. One of the guys that I lived with got his car stolen, and the cops found it about 3 or 4 days later. He got it back. The guy who stole it was using it to move from one apartment to another.
Oh my goodness!
When the cops got him.
Wow.
And
so he wasn't stealing it; he was borrowing it without permission.
So he may have tried to tell that to the cops, but they didn't believe him, so they confiscated the car and got it back.
Right.
And part of the stuff in there was a bunch of stuff, a couple boxes that he was using to move. And one of the things that happened is he wound up with there was an old King James Bible in there. And somehow, after we got all this stuff back, I wound up with the King James Bible on my bookshelf. And so I would get it down and read it, and I would go, well, this is interesting. I mean, I don't understand a lot of this stuff, but it seems that Jesus went around like healing people who were really messed up.
Right.
And, providing food for 5,000 people, doing these works that it seemed like they were supposed to show people something, about who he was. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Somebody said something to me one time. At the time, obviously, I was a musician, and I was at a music festival, and one of the musicians there, who I ended up getting in a band with later, he said something really profound that kind of hit me, and I thought about it. He said, all religions say that they are the one true way, and so either none of them is true or one of them is true.
Right.
And you have to figure out which one is which, And I thought, man, that's heavy. Well, maybe I should do that. So I started reading books along those lines and really trying to kind of construct a logical, I don't know what you'd call it, a logical framework with which to sort of look into these things.
Investigatory type of thing.
Yeah.
Investigation.
Yeah, something that you can actually be able to look at these things and make some critical and rational decisions.
Yeah.
And so I started looking at some of these things, and I was able to. I made sort of a list and would kind of read a few books on them and then rule them out. It's been a while, so I don't remember all of them. But I looked at Islam, and it just didn't seem like it really held much. The basic premise was you do all these good works, and if you do really good, then God might let you into heaven.
Mm-hmm.
But you never really knew what was going on as far as that went. Is God really going to let you in or not? It just seemed sort of, like repackaged paganism.
Sure.
And so I kind of rejected that because it didn't make a lot of sense. I looked at some of the Eastern religions, but that didn't make much sense either. There was a lot of stuff going on as far as Well, it was kind of the same thing. Well, if you do all of these good things, something good happens. God might let you in. Or you might become all one with the universe if you're really, really good and just sort of live like an ascetic. And I thought, no, that's not. I don't know about that. That doesn't seem really logical either. And one thing that was really odd is, as I got more into this search, one of the things I noticed is that Eastern religions, the way that they're portrayed here in the West, are way different as they are practiced in the place where they sort of grew up.
Yeah.
After I became a Christian, a great example of that is a book. It's kind of hard to find. It's called Magic and Mystery in Tibet. It talks about all of the stuff that is wild and weird, and basically it's just sort of repackaged animism that goes on with Tibetan Buddhism, which is supposed to be the absolute pinnacle and everything super mystical and all of that stuff. And so I kind of detected some of that earlier when I was looking at it. Western Buddhism is like, oh, it's all happiness and light, and everybody, it's just everything's good and yay.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't seem like that at all when it came to the people who were doing it. Like, the thing that kind of made me push it over the edge, I remember, was watching this video of these two monks get in a fist fight in South Korea. And one of them took a chamber pot and slugged the other one with it, and then he fell down and he dumped it on him.
Oh, my goodness.
And I thought, man, well, that's not... I think we can pretty much cross that one off. It's like two pastors getting in a fist fight.
Yeah.
It's very, very strange. So I kind of was able to scratch that one off. And then one by one, I came to the point where I was able to go, okay, well, it really comes down to the resurrection of Jesus. And the more that I looked into it, the more that I was able to give it some sort of a vague assent, really. It's like, well, okay, that sort of makes sense, I guess. I guess if you were God, it seems to be there's more evidence for or against it. But I really wasn't yet ready to make a formal commitment.
Yeah.
That took some nudging by the Lord. It's a pretty strong nudging, really. The Lord is not afraid to give you a push if you need it.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So at this time, you were doing music, correct?
Yes.
Cool. I was a musician as well. I toured. I didn't tour as much as you, but I toured.
Yeah.
I've toured like the entire U.S. and made like 10 albums as a singer-songwriter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was wondering a little bit about that. I know you said you played fiddle. Is that right? You played
yeah.
and you played guitar also. Is that right?
Yes.
So did you play fiddle in the band, or did you play guitar in the band? I forget from your testimony that part of it on the future.
Most of the bands I played in, I played fiddle.
Okay.
There just weren't a lot of good fiddle players, so I ended up getting asked to play fiddle in bands and kind of hold down that spot. Mm-hmm. And that was cool. It was fun. It's interesting.
Did you record any records with any of these bands, or was it just strictly like live performances?
Oh no, I recorded a couple of records with them.
Nice.
There was a band called I toured with a band called Lost Highway.
Okay.
And I played and toured with them. I did some recording with a guy named David Grisman, but that never saw the light of day because I was in the band about halfway through the recording process, mm-hmm. and just never finished it.
Yeah.
With the band, I think he released it, but I mean, I might have played on it. I don't know. I'd have to look, to be honest.
Sure. Were they? Sorry, I'm just asking because I'm always interested in the music angle. But
sure.
Did you guys have a record company that was putting you out at that time? Was it released on vinyl, CD, cassette? What was the deal with that?
All of the stuff, as far as I know, was released on CD.
Okay.
And I don't know...
What years were these?
Let's say from about 2002 to 2007 or 8, maybe,
okay.
was when all the recording happened.
That's kind of like when I was recording. So.
Oh, great, man. Tell me a little more about your musical.
I started out in 2001. I graduated high school, and then I started this kind of like indie rock post-punk, I don't know, pop-punk kind of,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you'd call it. There's so many subgenres you could call it, but
Mm-hmm.
you just call it a rock band at this point.
Cool.
Kind of alternative rock or whatever. And I did that, did like 4 releases with that, and then the guys basically never wanted to tour, or not enough to actually do it. They said they wanted to, but after a while it's like you get sick of hanging around the Chicago area just playing local shows. You want to go out and be a national touring act and hopefully eventually an international touring act, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Make it
Mm-hmm.
a real career, not just a local, hero band or something, So
Yeah.
anyway, so I did that and I got sick of it and I started this side project which really became my main thing, which was an acoustic band with a metal drummer and a fretless jazz bass player who is kind of into Jaco Pastorius and stuff like that. But it was, I don't know, I'm like a pop songwriter, so to speak. I mean, I think everything's pop with the exception of like fusion and jazz and, crazy orchestrations, math rock. Everything's kind of popular, structured, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus type stuff. So when I use the word pop, a lot of people kind of cringe when they think of like boy bands or something, but anyway, so I did that band, did 3 albums with that band. That was the band I toured with. Then I did an electronic project for a while. I also started my own record label, put out I think almost 10 releases, but just never could make ends meet at it, and just ended up doing what I'm doing now. So.
Well, there you have it. Yeah. All right, man.
But I'll send you some CDs if you want.
Yeah, sure, man.
It's secular, but whatever. So.
Well, yeah, as long as it's good.
I mean, it's not like overtly satanic or anything, but I wasn't at the time. I was not a believer, So
Yeah. No, you're not going to offend me if you send me some secular music.
Okay, because I'm working on Christian music right now. I'm doing a score for Leonard Ulrich's new film, The Illusion of Money. So.
Oh wow.
So I'm doing that right now, and then I'm also working on some like Christian rock stuff and some kind of soul stuff. So.
Wow.
All right, so I've totally hogged the mic here. I'm sorry for that, Tom.
No. It's fine, man. It's fine. We're just chatting.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I will. If at the end, I'll send you a box of CDs if you want. So.
Okay. Yeah. So where were we? What were we talking about?
We were talking about you playing in these bands, and I was just curious as to what records came out. You said they all came out on CD from like 2002 to 2008, I believe, as you said, is when you were doing that.
Pretty much, yep. I'd have to go back and think real hard about it, but I put a bunch of them out with different bands, and then put my own solo album out at one point.
Oh, cool.
Maybe I'll send you one of those. I don't know where I used to have a box full of them, but I don't know where they are anymore.
Sure.
And so who knows where they are? Yeah.
Yeah. So at this time, while you were doing this, you were a believer, or you were in the process of becoming a believer?
Well, I was investigating as you probably know, when you go out and you tour a bunch, somebody else is driving the van, and you have like 9 hours to not really do much other than.
Oh yeah.
You could stare out the window for an hour and a half, and at some point you just say, I can't take this anymore. I need something. So I'd read lots of books.
Yeah.
And I read a lot. At that time, I used to read a lot, an awful lot. So I would just read books on different things, and some were Christian, some were non, some were logic, some were all over the map. I remember reading. You had asked me early before the interview to mention some of
the books.
The books. Now there were lots, but one of the ones as far as like real logic. I want to say that Os Guinness put out a book on logic, and while we've been talking, I've been looking for it here, but I can't find it. But I think that was the title of it. It was a little blue book that just said logic, and there were also websites and stuff that I would download papers and sort of read on. There's a great book that I think all Christians should own, called The Baker Encyclopedia of Christian Apologetics, and it's done by Norman Geisler. Now, I purchased that book a while after becoming a believer.